when you look at how food is going to be served in the future, many times you think about automation, AI, robotics. If you're in the technology space, and of course, if you're looking at the restaurants kind of from a basis of will there be these kinds of restaurants actually existing for consumers to go and actually experience, is a big question. And it's one we're going to try to get an answer to today. My name is Paul Barron, and this is the Barron Report. Okay, so we've talked about robotics and AI being the potential savior to the restaurant industry, especially in a very tough time like what we're dealing with here in the US and abroad, with one, labor, and two, real estate, which are the two big factors. I've talked about this in my predictions show. If you haven't had a chance to see that, check it out on YouTube or on the podcast. I go into 23 predictions for 2021 that really break that down. And one of them is this. And today with me, I've got Shamai, and he is the CEO of Highpper. So great to have you on the show.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. All right. So, let's get into a little bit about Highpper and what the company does exactly for our viewers and listeners.
Well, our vision is we're seeing the world and the fast food world in delivery terms, only in delivery terms, in a way that it's a full, completely robotic, mechanical store, which has no human interference, where
Right.
you can actually see the whole process from scratch to complete product coming out. And it's going to be that's the future. That's the way we see the future. And we see all kind of verticals in that aspect. We see pizza and hamburgers, Asian food, boulangerie, ice cream, whatever we can, that will be placed in parking lots and in areas where it could serve, I'd say, 15,000 households, maybe 8 minutes radius delivery. So that's the kind of future we see. Of course, it can go also into stores like models within like a retrofit into a regular store in the different stores and the different fast food and the different restaurants. But we rather think of it, as more of delivery rather than QSR or restaurant itself.
Yeah, interesting. So we've kind of covered this a little bit on our show here about AI and robotics, full autonomy in terms of food preparation. It's also kind of one of the things when you look and we analyze companies like Chipotle, that if they're going to be able to get to really critical mass, being able to open up a lot of locations, real estate's always been a big challenge, and also labor. So you've kind of solved that solution because you're dealing with a completely transportable unit that really kind of solves the real estate challenge. And obviously with full autonomy, you've dealt with the issue of the need for labor. Does it require any labor whatsoever to actually operate one of these units?
No labor at all. There's no labor within the unit itself, meaning the unit is completely autonomous, no human interference. It does,
Yeah.
however, you have to refill the container every day,
Sure.
with whatever you fill it in. So, and you mentioned a very interesting point here, which is a scale up. And when you get like a production unit, like the kind of production unit we've manufactured, you can actually ship a whole chain on one ship. I mean,
Right.
we can go and ship from any place in the world, 300, 400 stores, and that's it. And they can go active in one day. I mean, if you place them and you plug them into four things: electricity, sink, water, and communication, you have a full unit working.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go. Let's dive a little bit into the technology with autonomous. Everything from autonomous vehicles. We've seen some autonomy in kitchens over the past few years, somewhat rudimentary, but I feel like we've seen some pretty massive leaps when you look at things like deep minds and what's happening at MIT around autonomy. Where does your technology stand in the scale of I'll say achievability in the sense of it actually being able to do the work. So we plug this in. Obviously, you supply it with the food products, the necessary ingredients, etc. Obviously, it's going to have to connect to the internet for some sort of e-commerce connectivity to be able to drive those orders. How have you guys addressed, I guess, two things? One is the actual physical robotics inside the unit. Talk to me a little bit about that, and then we can follow up about how the communication works. So let's talk about the robotics itself.
Okay. So the robotics is within the container. In every single store, there is a central unit. A central unit, which everything around it, everything ties around it. For instance, in a pizza, it would be the dispenser, the topping dispenser, and the
Okay.
sauce dispenser. So everything is around that. So this sauce dispenser, which we call octopus, is a sort of a mechanical robotic machine with an AI camera in the bottom of it. The AI camera is the way we monitor the pizza, that we see that the pizza is correct. So the AI camera can analyze this. It's a dragon tail camera. We didn't, it's not our technology, but we took it
Right.
from dragon tail. But the robot itself, the dispenser itself, is a provisional patent, which we developed, and it's supposed to do two things. One is being very accurate, and two, being very accurate. It's also very fast. So
I got it.
it produces very fast and then also very accurate in a way that there's nothing spills out, no sauce, no
Interesting.
topping is
In-
out, and right to the brand standard you need. So we're a B2B company, so we whatever dough you put, for instance, in pizza, whatever dough you're going to put, like a Pizza Hut would be a Pizza Hut dough, but you can put a Papa John's or whatever you want, and it comes out with the right sauce and the right toppings, and that's it. Very precise.
Right.
So that's the kind of robotics we use in terms of the central. You can also, I can give you another interesting point about the central. If you look at the central of the burger store. So the burger store would be, we have shells that it's a central robotic that every patty goes into the specific shell. Now this is done. It's induction. So whatever electricity goes through the induction, it gives you the how well you want the burger to be. Would you like it medium, or you like it,
Got it.
so that's the kind of, and everything around that, is something that brings the bun, puts the so less the most important robotics will always be the center of the store, like the tumbler and the wok inside the Asian store. That would be the center
Mhm.
of an Asian store.
Yeah. So, how many concepts do you feel you guys have the automation kind of built up or scaled into to where if someone, a brand here in the U.S. or abroad, said, "Hey, we have a burrito bowl chain, and we want to work on that burritos and burrito bowls." Versus, say, a hamburger chain or a pizza chain or someone that is developing those concepts. Do you have the automations built for each individual? Because those I would think are going to be quite a bit different for each one of those kinds of build outs.
Yeah, well, right now we have we build a pizza store, which would be
Hmm.
completely active in June 21. So that's what we have in hand and working.
Okay.
We designed and we have the centers of two of the burger, and we have the central robotics, also of the Asian, but we don't have
Hmm.
a full store, and it's completely different store. The only thing that has in common is the way you dispense the food into it, and also the cleaning. We have a special patent on the way we clean. This
Okay.
store cleans itself automatically every 40 minutes. And
Very
this is very
interesting.
important.
Okay.
Yeah, it must clean itself because there's the pipes and all this. So it's a and there's a patent around the way it cleans itself, which is not our patent, but we're using. It's the first time it's been used in that kind of business, and I feel very secure with it. In terms of quality assurance.
Yeah. All right. So let's get into the communication side of it, because obviously there's a variety of different ways that people are taking inbound orders today. E-commerce, and this is another topic we've talked about here on the show. That e-commerce and mobile, and/or third party, and community type or marketplace type ordering is happening in a big way here and across. I mean, we've seen it in the UK heavily, in the Middle East, and obviously the US. So basically, this has to be an e-commerce connection over to your facility. Whether I'm doing it on a mobile device or I'm doing it on my laptop or my computer, I'm placing an order for that pizza. It's generating an order queue there at your facility. What is the kind of throughput that you could handle on this pizza operation that you're talking about that launches mid-year?
Well, that's a simple part of it. We're giving an API to whoever we're a B2B company. So
Okay.
whatever the brand is, we're going to give them an API. So you can actually order. This thing can be done today. You can order any kind I mean, from any kind of device, the online
Perfect.
device that you have, and it processes the order, and we communicate with anything. There's two things, I want to emphasize here is that we only handle the store itself. I mean, we make the food, we produce the food and make it happen. But we don't deal with the chain supply, which is done by whatever chain it is,
Right. Right.
and also the chain supply and the food all around the logistics is done by them. And from the
Yep.
container to the consumer, we're not doing that. That could be Uber Eats, DoorDash, and whoever is doing that, they have
Gotcha.
an API, and then they can they can take it from there in any way they feel they're comfortable with and they're working. And it's really easy.
Very cool. So what would be the throughput pizzas per hour based on the unit that you're currently building for mid-year?
Okay, so the thing about production is I would like to give you a number, but it's not going to be a very reliable number. The reason is that there's always the oven, which is the most the bottleneck is the oven, and the
Right.
oven is the oven. It takes time. So whatever dough comes in, there's a time it takes to go through the oven, and we're not changing process. I mean, if Domino's is doing 7.5 minutes, we'll stick to Domino's 7.5 minutes.
Gotcha.
Or whoever is doing. So the thing is always in terms of production is how many layer of ovens you've got within the system. But
Okay.
generally speaking, we can do almost triple triple than a normal store.
Interesting.
Taking in consideration that we put three different three ovens, one on top of the other within the store. But the
Yeah.
ones that you're going to see shortly has only two ovens,
Okay.
because we just, because we built a prototype for two. The reason is that there's no in one oven, you get to the glass ceiling. In two oven, you break the glass ceiling. There's no
Hmm.
store that you don't want. There's a problem in over production in this because you need to hold more dough, you need to hold more, and you're getting into. But we can do anything. If somebody says he wants triple oven, we will do triple oven, no problem.
I got it. So, I mean, essentially, it's scalable in the sense of what the capacity is based on a normal operation that you would physically build in a retail location. Uh, is there a speed advantage from the autonomy itself? Since you don't see the mistakes, you've got a consistency, concept that's already in place. With that being the case, do you feel like the method, when you look at, hey, I need to make 700 pizzas a day, um, and out of those 700, with human labor, there's some error there. There's going to be anywhere between 2 and 3% waste. There's going to be 2 to 3% comebacks because it's wrong. Accuracy is an issue. Do you feel like that, from an autonomy standpoint, is going to be resolved to where you don't have, or you reduce that down to a very, very small number?
Absolutely, absolutely. This is our main interest here is that by taking the labor office, that was the problem that we have the quality assurance. So
Yeah.
people are training more and more people all the time. They're training and they're spending a lot of money on. And the thing is that nobody wants to work anymore in this business. It's a kind of business that it doesn't attract people, and people want to be they want to go to other areas, and the thing is it's getting more and more difficult. It's actually sad, but people are trying to get people to work for them, and they find it harder and harder every year, and the minimum wage is going up because it's harder to get people. And here the other thing is that you see now in the pandemic, you see that just think of it. If I had working stores right now, I mean, there's no human interference. There's no problem. Everything is going,
Right.
and it really helps. And people are being more, feeling more secure in buying the products, and then you're getting a very accurate product, standard, world standard, tip top.
Yeah. Yudi, when you look at, okay, so what is the footprint of one of these? Can it be pretty much what I want it to be based on the kind of the production, or do you have a fixed few sizes that you're working on right now for operations like let's say a pizza chain in this particular case? What would the size of this container or this device be?
It's a 40-foot container. So
Okay.
everything is fitted, crammed up into the 40-foot container. Is the reason why we did this was because we wanted something conventional, so that we can
Right.
be moved. So if you got the wrong location, let's say you have a store now and you got a location, you build a
Hmm.
place. If you want to move the place, you would need to
Yep.
spend, I don't know, between half a million to $1 million to move it.
Mm.
You need, you need you almost erase all the investment in it.
Sure.
With
Yeah.
this, with this store, you can just move it, 2 miles south, east, west, whatever you want. There's no brainer, and you put it on a truck, and it goes everywhere, and you plug it in. And the other thing is that in parking lots, you can access the container in everywhere, from every angle you want. And there's a lot
Okay.
of vacancy because of the online increase. So
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah, well, and we're going to continue to see, I think, a lot more of these, especially with ghost kitchen operations, virtual brands developing, where, some brands are actually spinning out their concept in multiple different ways, which this would be probably just one of the other distribution models that they would use. Also, one more question from an operations standpoint. So, an autonomous unit, it's a 40-foot container. Um, the robot's in there making the pizza. It's got the ingredients that's being supplied by a maintenance crew that's coming in and dropping. Now we have to deal with the delivery engagement, which is going to happen to a delivery driver, whether it's my own delivery or a third-party delivery. How does that work? Does the automation just kind of slide it out into a dispensary section of the unit, and that's where the pickups are done?
yeah, well, you just think of an ATM.
Okay.
Imagine an ATM where you put, the delivery guy's got a card, and he just
Ah,
uh, just slides the card, and it just knows which delivery guys takes what. It's doing the bundling. It takes the Coke and the salad or whatever. It bundles them together. So when you open it, you already have the box fills out everything that you've got there. So,
hmm.
and the only thing you have to do is, the delivery guy is take it. And I think that if you ask me, that the future belongs to, the biggest nightmare of the brands is the aggregators. And the aggregators at the end are going to have all these units by themselves. They're going to control by themselves. They got the consumers, so
Oh,
they can
what are you saying? Are you saying Uber's going to get in the restaurant industry? No, couldn't have that, could we?
have. Yeah,
That's going to happen, yes. And Postmates and
absolutely.
all those. Eventually, I mean, they
Yeah.
have all the data of the consumers. It's the natural evolution, especially with one of your products, because if you get automation built in where you don't have labor, I mean, we're already dealing with kind of a declining, uh, vehicle side of the business. And I think eventually with what Tesla's doing from robotaxis, that the delivery model is going to be pretty much decimated within the next 2 to 3 years. So that business in itself is definitely going to push a lot of these marketplaces into what I have said for a very long time is that Uber and those types will eventually have to be in the restaurant industry to be able to actually compete in the future. All right, so I'm kind of curious when you look at the development, because this is something I do a lot of study on robotics and automation, because I do think this is kind of the future of all things retail and restaurant. With you, where is the knowledge base coming from? Because someone like a Tesla, they've got, hundreds of millions of miles of data being aggregated into their neural net, which is essentially operates the Tesla operating system. What and where are you getting data from an autonomous standpoint? Because obviously there's very few, if any, operations that have actually successfully done this. Is this coming from a university there in Tel Aviv, or is this something out of MIT? Where's the research coming from?
Well, we got several people, the founders. So we got two founders that are really into the bits and bytes, in terms of out of the box building. One of them comes from the army, from the Israeli army. He was 23 years in the army, so he built some real interesting stuff. And he's like completely out of the box thinker, and he managed to get some really um, interesting, I'd say, models into the things we're doing. And another thing is we're doing the people who produces really built the container for us are called
Hmm.
Bet El. They're Christian Germans that settled in Israel around the 50s, and they have 7 factories in Israel. These people are really master in building machines.
Ah, okay.
They're well known, and they're the people. They are the production. So we have a factory in the north of Israel together with them, where these machines are being built, and they have a lot. I gotta say that they have a lot of contribution. These people, because they are extremely knowledgeable people around mechanics and robotics. Um, and also, the last thing is, I think we took some knowledge from universities, not from Tel Aviv, not from Israel, but from other places in the world where we bought the arms from, like Japan and places like United States.
Yeah.
So we had people helping us, getting some smart ideas of how to do things more efficient.
Hmm.
It's assembly of a lot of minds, around it. Um, yeah, so it took 2.5 years to get one machine, to understand, what we need to do. And there were mistakes on the way. Not everything was everything was not that easy as it sounds. There were some times where I thought, we're walking, running into a wall. But eventually, it starts, and you see things happening, and you say, "Wow, it's amazing
Yeah.
to see this."
Well, it's good. I mean, you've got German engineering there. You've got Army intelligence. It sounds like working on this. So,
Yeah.
and that's always kind of the front of when I look at companies that are developing products that are very bleeding edge, is the teams and the technology behind them, because that usually is the indicator for success. And if I look back at companies like Olo, which pretty much now is the controller of third-party dispatch in the industry, and Noah and his team, they've been at it for 15 years, and their beginning, period of time was much like yours. It was a lot of hit and miss and trial. But what we are seeing, I think, in robotics and automation is advancing very quickly. So I think that you guys are onto something. I want to thank you so much for stopping in on the show today. It's great having you, Udi Shamai,
Thank
and
you.
of course he's coming to us from Israel with the company called Highpper.
And thank you very much for taking me. It's a pleasure and an honor.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Udi.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
All right, so you guys are listening in over on the podcast. Maybe you're tuning in various places now. We've got this show over on Amazon Music, which is on the podcast side of things. Apple, of course, is still kind of our titan of our audio version of this show. And then, of course, on YouTube, right here as you're watching a show like this. We love to get your ideas and things that you think we should have here on the Barron Report. And the way you do that is just shoot us an email to producer@foodabletv.com. Also, we are implementing a new segment in the show called Office Hours. And basically how that's going to work is you just send me your question. Whether you do it audio, I may take some tweets and/or connections on social for your questions, and then we'll just answer some of those right here on the show. So make sure and shoot, again, if you have an idea and you want to just record a quick audio question, shoot it to producer@foodabletv.com. That's the best way to reach it. And of course, you can always hit me up on Twitter @PaulBarron. Thanks so much for stopping in on another great show here on the Barron Report. We'll catch you next time.